Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we are going to discuss an important topic related to the neonates, which is prematurity. And the learning objectives of today's discussion are that you should know what is prematurity, and you can list the problems related to the preterm deliveries and preterm babies, and what complication they can suffer in their immediate post-delivery life and future in future, and how you can offer the management options to these patients. So let's start with the SEQ. This is about a 1500-gram baby boy who delivered in emergency by cesarean section at 32 weeks of gestation. Baby cried initially but developed respiratory distress, grunting, and cyanosis. And his X-ray showed reticulocellular shadowing and hair broken. And his blood gases were with a pH of 7.15, carbon dioxide is 65, and sodium bicarbonate is 15 with saturation of 85%. So blood gases shows the acidosis, and this acidosis is of mixed pattern with raised CO2 and low bicarb. So that is showing there is a problem in the lung and poor peripheral fluid. So let's see, by the end of this lecture we should understand what is the answer of this question. So prematurity means a baby who is born before term time. A baby is born term when he is having a gestation age of 37 weeks or more. So any baby who is born before 36 weeks plus 6 days is called premature. So you can define prematurity by the gestation of the baby. So a baby whoever is born before 37 weeks is premature, and if he is born below 32 weeks is called very premature, and if he is born less than 25 weeks, this is called extremely preterm baby. And if you go on the birth weight, so any child who is born less than 2500 grams is called low birth weight child. So a low birth weight child can be due to prematurity or intrauterine growth retardation. So if any child who is premature is also usually a low birth weight child as well. So if the birth weight is less than 1500 grams, this is very low birth weight, and if it is below 1000 grams, this is called extremely low birth weight, and if it is below 750 grams, this is called incredibly low birth weight child. So these are the definitions or mnemonics of a child who is born preterm. And what are the reason a baby is born preterm? There can be maternal causes or there can be fetal causes. So most of the time, the baby in utero is cared by the gynecologist. So the causes are usually related to the mother, and those can be preeclampsia, fetal distress because of in utero growth retardations, eruption of placenta. There can be even sometimes a fetal death if the baby is if the mother is having the contractions before a term gestation. Many of the time you never know what is the reason of a preterm delivery or the reason for preterm labor, and sometimes which is more related to pediatrician, is it a reason of infection to the mother, because if mother is carrying an infection that will be transmitted to the baby, and at that gestation the baby is not uh, carrying a defense system, antibodies to fight against the infection, and that is a concern for pediatrician and neonatologist. So you can see that in these days in utero fertilization and in vivo fertilization is very common, and the multiple babies are born because of this process. So most of the time, if there are multiple babies in utero, so that can cause early onset of labor and preterm deliveries. So if you review the causes, so in the history, there can be history of previous preterm babies. So the cannot relate logically or scientifically, but it happens so. If there was a previous baby born um, preterm, again there is a chance of developing a baby before full-term gestation, and that can be a uterine factors, or there can be a maternal factors, or there can be factors related to growth of the baby. So if the baby is growing poorly, and the mother's health is a factor because of maternal diseases, or mother is having some infections or drug abuse, so that can lead up to a preterm. So what is the incidence of infection to the mother, and as a cause effect, baby can be infected. You can see this slide that infection or chorioamnionitis as a key factor of preterm labor can be higher as the baby is born more preterm. So it's a 10% of the time when the baby is born, just preterm, a near term, and it can be 50% of the time if the baby is born a very preterm. The same is the factor with the gestational age and weight. So 80% of the time, if it is related if the baby is born below 28 weeks and 1000 gram. So more the preterm is a baby, there is more a chance that chorioamnionitis or infection in utero is a cause of preterm delivery, and at the same time it is related more with the neonatal infections and cause of mortality in preterm babies. The racial factor is also associated that the number of preterm deliveries are double in African American women than Caucasians. So you can see what is the explanation of that. Sometimes it is difficult to explain, but it happens so more in the Asian and African ladies and the white population. So there are multiple problems related to the babies who are born preterm, and the problems start from the delivery room management. If you can recall the neonatal resuscitation algorithm, so you always discuss with the parents what is going on with the baby even before delivery. So you will counsel them that after delivery, these babies are born with the problems, so they will need uh, admission in NICU, neonatal ICUs, and even immediately after delivery, they will need resuscitation. Their body is small, they are unable to manage their temperature, so they will be kept in an environment where temperature is maintained, and they will not be fed immediately after the birth. They will require to maintain their fluids and electrolytes. Their blood sugar can be low. Their electrolytes and calcium can be managed or will be managed through the IV fluids, or in you can say the adjuvant therapy. So their lungs are weak, they will need a support with the respirators and surfactant. The PDA can kept open for next 3 months. They will need transfusion after blood sampling and the other system care. So the multiple systems are affected because of preterm delivery, and they need pharmacological and other supportive care for even sometimes months and months. And what can be the long-term problems or long-term damage to the organs we will discuss in this lecture. See, this is a small list of problem what is usually encountered by these children, that they can have RDS, which is respiratory distress syndrome, Harlan membrane disease, because of the weak lungs and lungs need support, and because of ventilation, they develop immediate complication and long-term complications. Their brain matrix is fragile, they can have intraventricular hemorrhage. Their gut is fragile, so that they can have necrotizing enterocolitis. Their eyes can suffer because of oxygen therapy and other factors leading to retinopathy of prematurity. Their lung will be damaged because of barotrauma from the ventilator and oxygen therapy. They can get easily infected because of immune system problem, because they don't get antibodies transmitted through the placenta, which is usually transmitted after 28 week of gestation. So there's a long list of problem we'll discuss one by one. So the most common issue is that these newborns have stiff lungs and it's difficult to ventilate, so they will need assisted ventilation at the time of delivery. So the team should be prepared, and the multiple trained and skilled hands should be available. So the baby can be resuscitated if he or she needs immediate respiratory support or CPR immediate after birth. So there should be a trained team available, and the pediatrician and neonatologist should be informed pre-hand with full information that what is the risk factor, why the baby is going to deliver prematurely, and what equipment is required if there is more than one baby, so more than one skilled person who is skilled in resuscitation of the newborn should be there, and simultaneously the equipment should be available for each baby who is going to deliver prematurely. This is a picture of Concordia, which is the largest glacier in the world, and this is Asad of Pakistan. If you are traveling in this area and you are not properly covered, the way you will lose the temperature, a wet newborn, especially the preterm, will lose the temperature. So babies we are getting from outside the hospital, those who are delivered in some other places, and shifted to our hospital, sometimes they have unrecordable temperature. So in a preterm baby, the hypothermia is one of the key factors which can lead to the failure of resuscitation. So while you are resuscitating the baby or managing a preterm baby, you have to keep them warm. So immediate after delivery, the baby should be wrapped in a warm towel, or those babies who are born less than 1 kilo, they are immediately wrapped in a polythene bag. So they shouldn't lose their temperature. They can lose their temperature by conduction, convection, irradiation. So there are different modes of losing the temperature. So they are kept in the environment where they can maintain their body temperature, so they can maintain their homeostasis. This incubator is a costly item sometime in developing countries. So the governments cannot afford a lot many numbers of incubators, or there are lot many babies are there, so equipment is not sufficient to cater those babies. In those situations, there is alternative of which is called kangaroo care. So the babies are in skin to skin contact with their mothers or even sometimes with the father, and by that the baby is being taken care in a non-infectious environment with direct skin contact with the mother. Not only the babies are safe and kept warm, it has been seen those babies are taken care by this way, they have better outcome than those who are taken care in the machines or incubators. So by this modality, even you can take care of sick children, even they are on nasal CPAP, they are being kept with the mothers, so that you don't need highly specific machines like incubators. So the mother will also be reassured that baby is with them and you are doing the management. And to give the respite care, sometime the father or other relative who is trained in giving kangaroo care, so you can manage with the other relatives as well. So this facility is also available in Pakistan, and every doctor, especially who is involved in the preterm babies, gynecologists, and from pediatric side, they should be trained in kangaroo care, so you can save the life of preterm babies. This is a picture of hyaline membrane disease. You can see the alveoli become solidified because of their decreased surface tension. So the alveoli does collapse. So in that situation, you can see the patent airways, which are in the form of Tom track appearance, which is called air bronchogram, and the lungs looks white. So the lungs are solidified. So they are difficult to inflate self themselves, Like the baby will start grunting. So by grunting, at the end of expiration, they try to keep their alveoli open. So grunting is sound produced by the child at the end of expiration. It's a natural way of creating a positive end expiratory pressure. So to overcome that, you need to support the lungs by giving oxygenation in simple nasal cannula, or you can support them with a machine like nasal CPAP, or you can support with the ventilators. So that will keep the lungs open by giving the air and oxygen with the pressure. The other way, which which is the problem in these children, is the surfactant. The surfactant lines the alveoli and keep the surface tension low. So I will explain you by the example. If you are inflating a balloon, if balloon is hard, that you will feel a difficulty in pushing the air into the balloon. If balloon is soft, you can push the air very easily. So in this situation, lungs are solidified, so it's difficult to inflate. So lung injury is very common. You need more oxygen to keep the oxygen saturation. So to avoid these issues, you can give surfactant, and to avoid the issues of ventilator, you can ventilate them by a natural mechanism or nasal CPAP. So rather than giving trauma to the lungs, you can avoid that by giving surfactant and by ventilating alternative mode, which is called non-invasive ventilation. And this facility is available in our institution. So you can see the histological picture of island membrane disease, how the alveoli are solidified, and you can see the straining. So ventilator and surfactant is a modality which can rescue the lung problem, the island membrane disease, and they usually recover or start recovering after third day of life. But this is not the only issue. This oxygen can damage the lung, and this oxygen can damage the eyes, this oxygen can damage the brain. So you have to quantify the oxygen like a drug with the dose, with the mode of delivery, and duration of treatment. So you have to limit the percentage of oxygen by blended air rather than giving 100% oxygen, and you have to achieve the benefit and avoid the side effects of the therapy. So this is acute complication which is called pneumothorax. You can see the left side in pneumothorax, and you can insert the drain to rescue the life of the child. This is the pneumothorax, which can be empty pneumothorax if mediastinum is shifted and the other problems are associated. You can identify the endotracheal tube, so the patient is on ventilator, so this pneumothorax should be addressed. So anything can be done antenatally to avoid preterm delivery or to avoid the complication of the disease. This has been seen that preterm delivery is unavoidable, and you have to buy the time to give antenatal steroid. So 2 doses of dexamethasone or betamethasone is given before the baby is delivered and with the interval of 12 hours. So it has been seen that dexamethasone is associated with complication of IVH and necrotizing enterocolitis more than the betamethasone, but any of the drug which is available should be given. The severity of RDS will be lessened and other complication can be avoided. If mother has been given antenatal steroid, this will save the baby's life as well. So you can see the long-term complication of pulmonary dysplasia. By definition, if the child is still on oxygen after the 4 weeks of delivery, so this is liable to develop a long-term lung injury. And in the newborn, CLD means chronic lung disease, not chronic liver disease. So there are two terms used for the chronic lung injury for the preterm babies who are managed with oxygen on ventilator. So because of barotrauma and oxygen therapy, they may develop bronchopulmonary dyspnea, which is called BPD, or the other name is CLD, which is called chronic lung disease. So they will have lung problems and for longer life, and they will need diuretics and the other problem. These children can deteriorate when they develop respiratory sensitive virus infection. So in initial 3 months, they are given monoclonal antibodies. So they should not suffer the RSV infections and their problem should not exaggerate. So these children have a fragile and immature brain. Its brain uh, is the one which is controlling our respiration, and the brainstem is the area where there is a center of the control of breathing. If you see a newborn, the usual pattern of breathing is that there is a phase of fast breathing, and then there is a phase of slow breathing, then there is some pause or apnea for a few seconds. And if this is longer than 20 seconds, or any of them which is cyanosis or bradycardia, this is called apnea premature. So because of immature brain, these children do have this problem. They can hold their breathing, they can become cyanose, they can have bradycardia. So if these children are less than 32 weeks of age, they are given prophylactic drugs, caffeine in IV or oral form, or aminophylline as alternative. And usually this problem is no longer there after 34 weeks of gestation. So any child who is born less than 32 weeks of gestation, we used to give them this drug. Or if they are symptomatic after this age of gestation, you may give this drug. And after 34 weeks of corrected gestation, you don't need to give these drugs. And after their survival from ventilator therapies, they need a nutrition. So those children who are liable to be kept NPO for longer time, they are given parenteral nutrition, mean IV nutrition, so which is a routine therapy for these children, and you can give them nutrition through the IV infusion, and that contain fluids, glucose, electrolytes, trace elements, proteins, lipids, and of course the calculated amount of fluid as well. This is called TPN, total parenteral nutrition. So as their gut is prepared to tolerate the feeding, initially before completion of 33 weeks of gestation, they are given NG feeding, nasogastric feeding, because they can have their swallowing reflex at 28 weeks of gestation, but coordinated swallowing, so, so there is sucking reflex, sorry, is there at 28 weeks of gestation, but coordinated swallowing is not there till the end of 33 weeks of gestation. So any baby who is even demanding feeding is given nasogastric feeding before completion of 33 weeks of gestation, and after that they can have oral feeding. And the mother feed, express mother feed, is the better option than the best formula feeding even. So the mother nutrition is best for that gestation. So always try to give mother feeding through NG, nasogastric, and when the baby is prepared to take oral feeding, the mother feed should be given first. And if not, then preterm formulas contain more calories than the usual baby's formula. So the preterm feeding is given, and sometimes you have to add the vitamin D, calcium, vitamin E, folic acid, and other element to give extra nutrition, and sometimes you have to lipid to give extra calories to these babies. And this is not without complication. These children can have a complication which is called necrotizing enterocolitis. It initially manifests the baby stops tolerating feeding, and whatever you're giving the feed is coming back. And sometimes this is bile stain. Remember one, if it is a blood stain, it's always a pathological reason. You have to stop feeding, you have to give a rest to the stomach. Depending on, there is a long classification of necrotizing enterocolitis, which is not domain of undergrads. But depending on the grading of necrotizing enterocolitis, which start with the distension of cut loops and intolerance of feeding to the gas in the intestinal wall, which is called nematosis intestinalis, and then that gas can get into the portal system, which and then there can be a rupture of the intestine, which is manifested by the air under diaphragm. So all the stages are covered by the changing of antibiotic or metronidazole, and only the surgical reason is referred to the surgeon if there is rupture of the intestine, which is the manifested by gas under diaphragm or free gas in the peritoneum. So you can see the necrosed intestine. So if this is an irreversible ischemic injury or because of infection, then you have to remove the damaged part, and then surgeon has to play his role. So you can see the different stages of necroplastic pyroclast. You can appreciate the distended cut loop, and you can see even the gas under diaphragm. So this is um, a surgical condition which has to be dealt by the surgeon. The liver is also immature like other organs, so the neonatal jaundice is sometimes delayed or exaggerated. So you need to give phototherapy, what we have discussed in another lecture before in the class. So brain is also immature, so there can be bleeding in the germinal matrix of periventricular region. So there are different stages of intraventricular hemorrhage. There can be a small bleed in the germinal matrix, and then that can extend into the ventricles. That ventricles can be distended or dilated, or it can extend to the brain matrix. So there are different grades of intraventricular hemorrhage. I have described 4 grades of them. So by the knowledge of homunculus, you remember in that area the legs are dipping in that area. So if there is a bleed in the intraventricular region, so that will be manifested by weakness of the legs more than the upper limbs, and even sometimes the brain has a minimum damage. So the legs are involved more, and if it is a long-term injury, this is called diaplegic cerebral palsy. Diaplegic means the legs are involved more than the upper arms. And ultimately, if the brain is suffering because of oxygen therapy, because of ischemic injury, or because of hemorrhagic insult, there can be a long-term neurodevelopmental issues, so which can lead to even a permanent disability, which is called cerebral palsy in terms of movement and the posterior disc joint. The retinopathy of prematurity you have read in detail in your ophthalmology lectures. So I will not go into the detail of the retinopathy of prematurity, uh, the but I will let you know that retinopathy of prematurity is a preventable issue and is a manageable issue as well, because oxygen is not the only risk factor. This is a major risk factor of retinopathy of prematurity, but the other features like infections, low apgars, and some maternal condition also exaggerate or contribute to the issues. In Lahore General Hospital and Amiruddin Medical College, we have the best centers to screen the children for retinopathy of prematurity. They are usually screened at the 4 weeks after their birth, and if it is picked up, and you know the details of issues, the zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3 disease, it is the every child who is born less than 32 weeks of gestation, or his birth weight is less than 1500 gram, will be screened for retinopathy of prematurity, especially those children who received oxygen therapy and their oxygen requirement was more. So every child in our unit is screened for that. I will not go into the details of you already know about zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3 disease. Especially zone 1 disease is more serious, and it can lead to detachment of the retina. So it has to be treated by laser therapy or intravitreal injections. So the facility is available here. So the more important is to avoid retinopathy of prematurity by controlling the percentage of oxygen and limiting the duration of oxygen therapy, and then screening the babies for retinopathy of prematurity and then treating them. This is one of our private patient was treated for 67 days for prematurity, had different lung issues, gut issues, and ultimately developed retinopathy of prematurity. By looking into the eye contact, this patient was treated with a laser and then intravitreal injection. You can see by the eye contact, the patient is able to visualize even after aggressive therapy. So I will summarize: a premature baby who is born less than 37 weeks can have a lung problem in the form of RDS, can have jaundice because of premature liver, can have intraventricular hemorrhage because of premature brain, can have a gut issues and feeding problem because of fragile gut, which can lead to the ischemic injury, that is necrotizing enterocolitis. And these babies can have a long-term complication of the lungs like BPD, and they can have a neurodevelopmental issues. So future challenges: can we prevent preterm birth? So this is a subject of research, and understanding of dynamics has led to the survival of more preterm babies, and you can see the viability has gone down to 23 week of gestation and 400 grams. And their nutrition problem also lead to the more uh, better survival in the preterm babies. And technology is improving. We are shifting from invasive ventilation to non-invasive ventilation, and nowadays multiple drugs are being tried to avoid prematurity and to treat prematurity. So you can see the incidence of long-term survival and outcome. So they can have a disability, and more preterm is a baby, more is a chance of um, dying and having complications. So thank you very much. See you soon.